Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
So much better. Doing
Good,
good.
good.
So, yay, life.
Rise and energize. Here we are, first week of getting on live every morning, 7 Eastern, 6 a.m. Central, 4 a.m. Pacific.
Which
Um,
there are some 4 a.m. clubbers.
there is,
So,
there
yeah.
is. It's been great. I'm really enjoying the conversation, and I really am enjoying some of the comments. I've been messaging about 10, 12 people throughout the week that have joined us and wanted to share some information, some feedback, some knowledge, some tips around energy gains and energy drains. So it's been a really cool week. It's been really fun to just be honest and real and vulnerable and talk about the things that are exciting and give energy and those things that are draining all that level of energy. So,
We
how
also
about you,
love
Rachel?
we love feedback and we love collaboration, and that's the one thing that I wanted to mention today. One of the events I just went to, I cross promoted and I collaborated, and I feel like a lot of times people don't understand that collaboration is really about connecting with more people. It's not competition. And so I'd love for people today to really think about who they can start collaborating with, who fans those flames, who helps amplify your message. Because a lot of times I feel like, and you've probably been through this, I am sure people have asked you, like, hey, Jim, can you fill in for me? Like, help me speak at this event or whatever it is. And they're probably in the same vein of work that you do. But it's collaborating, it's not competing. And so I'm hoping that people can start thinking about who they can start collaborating with. I think a lot of times in this world, especially when it's within veins of niches that we all work in, we start to look at how much further other people are, or we start to look at like how many more events people are doing, right? And we think, gosh, like I'm not there yet. Um, but I just want people to really start to think about how they can collaborate with other people, and like including us. Like, how can you collaborate with us? I mean, Jim and I are collaborating to amplify the message, right? Jim has worked so hard on. That was the one thing. And the other thing I thought about was something that you mentioned the other day, was when you started Impact Effect, it started in a room of like 8 people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was talking to a couple of other people at this event, and they were like, yeah, my first event had 5 people, but those 5 people tell more people and tell more people. And so anybody planning an event, maybe for this weekend or this week or this month, and like it's your first event, like kudos to you, right, Jim? You know how hard it is to just start something. Can you talk to everybody about that today? Because I feel like what could feel like an energy drain, which is, oh, I had an event and not a ton of people showed up, really is an energy gain, because you have to focus on who's paying attention and not who's not paying attention.
It's such a great discussion item, and it's so powerful around energy gain and energy loss. So I want to talk about two things that you mentioned. And the first one is collaboration. So, in order to leverage collaboration for an energy gain, not an energy drain, you have to have clarity in what collaboration looks, feels like, and how that satisfies you. So, different people have different understanding of collaboration. Um, there's a lot of people that reach out to me, Jim, I love your content, I love what you're doing, your events amazing, your conferences, Impact Effect community, I want to get on stage, I'm going to get on stage, let's collaborate. And then we start to talk about what that looks like. And my definition of collaboration, especially for an event, is cross marketing, right? I don't hire speakers, I hire marketers who are really good at speaking. So if I'm going to collaborate with you, there has to be an even value exchange. If you're a speaker coming in to educate, a subject matter expert, if you're going to be on stage or enhance the event with your knowledge and your expertise, that's amazing. And that could be extremely valuable. If it's the exact thing that this event needs and wants, a lot of the time, we get into collaboration and a speaker or subject matter expert has their own agenda, right? That's not collaboration. And sometimes people get frustrated when I say, hey, it's not a good fit to have you at this event. And their response tells me if they were seeking collaboration or they were seeking to gain a majority of the value to satisfy themselves. Because I've been on that end. I've been the speaker that the person said, hey, this doesn't really fit what we need. And I said, okay, great. Like, totally get it. But let's how can we build something together that's in alignment, that has a ton of synergy, that makes a ton of sense for us to collaborate, right? This doesn't make sense. And I can understand that. On the side of you throwing the event, understanding what collaboration is extremely important. And I would advise you to sign a contract or an agreement, even if it's non-monetary. And the reason why I say that is because clear expectations will meet the understanding and defining moments of how you look at collaboration, right? And when there's a million things going on and you're throwing an event, you got this coming up and that coming up, you're probably not focusing on, hey, my subject matter expert is going to do exactly what we talked about 3 weeks ago. Nothing's changed. Everything's in line. We're still in synergy. Everything's still dialed. That usually doesn't happen. Like, things change, speakers get new ideas, speakers try this, it works, and they're releasing this, or they got a book launch, so they tell you what this collaboration looks like, but the collaboration of what they're truly seeking and what they're going to benefit and gain value of is never discussed or understood, right? If someone's coming to me and they want to speak and they want to collaborate and they just released a book, if that book isn't the exact subject matter expert education or storytelling, then I know from experience that their value is they want to get their book in people's hands and they want to sell their book. And if they try to tell me it fits my event or my meeting and I don't believe it, then I know they don't want to collaborate. They just want to push out their book, which is a majority of speakers, a majority of phone calls I get, a majority of DMs, messages. I just got 3 messages this week, 1 yesterday, where it's not a collaboration. They don't want to collaborate. They want something from me. They want my stage. They want my audience. They want to sell their product to this community, which I am very protective over, right? Like you probably hear it every friggin' day. I end up talking about something around the fact that a community is only as good as how much it's protected against the things that nobody wants. So those are often energy drains because I'm not getting in front of the understanding that I have for collaboration. So I don't know to ask the questions to ensure there's alignment with what they seek as collaboration. So define collaboration and also understand the definition of collaboration from the person who wants to collaborate. That would be the first thing.
But I also like the idea of the contract, because even if it's non-monetary, you can still say, okay, you're going to post this many stories, you're going to post this many reels, like, here's graphics for the event, please promote it and help me promote. Because that's the other thing I did see that is a huge energy drain, was I was feverishly like reposting and tagging and doing all these things that I felt were to help cross promote. And I noticed 50% of the people weren't reposting. Now, that could be because I didn't clearly communicate, like, this is how you do that. I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. And number 2, there was no contract. I didn't have that uncomfortable conversation. I just trusted the process, which is a huge energy drain, because I'm trusting a process that I don't really know. Like you said, I don't really know what their version of collaboration is. And so that's a huge, wow moment for me today, to even though it seems so little, we need to all be on the same page of what the expectation is of the output, because then it's an energy drain the whole time. I'm working so hard to do this, and I'm trying to help promote them and using my platform to do that because I'm assuming we're going to cross promote, right? And then it wasn't happening. And so not for every person that was in the room, essentially, that I was trying to amplify. And so I love that idea. And I know for some people like myself, it's uncomfortable to have that conversation, but you have to cover your ass at some point in time, and you have to really keep it copacetic.
You brought up such a great point. Asking someone to sign an agreement if you're not paying them is a hard thing to do. So what's in it for them by signing that, right? Hey, this is a record where you can go to this document at any time and know exactly what the expectation is. You can go to this document at any time and know exactly what we're going to deliver on our end. You can go to this document at any time if you forget this conversation that's 6 months before an event and you are questioning what type of microphone you have. Are you questioning how much time you have for an intro song? If there's deadlines in this agreement to help you so you're not scrambling and managing a calendar or running around, just print this thing out, throw it in your folder. And when you think of the event, just reference it back and it's all outlined, super easy and it's eligible. Like it's formatted in a way where you can just go and grab information. That agreement wouldn't necessarily be something where, you need every single legal piece of language in, right? Because there's no exchange of money. So you can't actually go into courts because there has to be an exchange, an even exchange. Or you could go into courts, but it's going to cost you money. So why put all that stuff in there, right? It's just kind of fluff. But like a scope of work, who it's between, when it needs to be delivered by, that's actually helpful. And if you position it as what's in it for them, and this is just the one-stop shop, go to this doc. If you have any questions, if you need anything, all the resources are in here, all the expectations, and then you agree and you review it. This is the other thing. Don't send I learned this with, I learned this one the hard way. There's people in this world that sign agreements and don't read them. Shocker, right? I've done it. Not talking trash because it's been me too. But when you pay someone $15,000, they don't read the agreement, they sign it. You have a ton of stuff that you're leveraging upon in that agreement. There's stuff that you strategically put in that agreement that you wanted, and hoped that they would sign and do. And they sign it and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. They agree with it. They see my vision. They're going to do these little extra things. We're going to get on 16 lives. I know that's a little ridiculous to promote this, but I paid them 15 grand. They're famous. I'm talking about someone who has 1.2 million followers on Instagram, right? They didn't read the contract. They didn't fulfill anything in the contract. So whether there's a money exchange or not, I learned in that process, go through the agreement with the person on Zoom, on the phone, just so you can have peace of mind that they heard it, they saw it, hopefully they're reading it along with you, and they understand it, right? I think for me, I was scared and timid, so I didn't want to have those bold asks in a contract. And I was new to the industry, so we were talking about if you're throwing some of your first events and only 5 people show up, you're probably new to events. There's a whole world of contractual language, expectations, people on pedestals that you have to break through because it's your event and it's your audience, and you have to put the audience first. You have to give the audience what you're saying you're going to give them and go above and beyond at all costs. So agreements, whether it's a money exchange or not, is an energy gain for me because it sets the plateau. It sets the bottom line where the floor is, and we're just living in this middle of space in which we both, you and I, agree upon. And it needs to be what's in it for them. It's not just a one-sided agreement. If you're going to promote them, if you're going to market them, if you're going to put them in your emails, how many people is it going to show the value in the agreement that you're bringing as well?
Well, and I love that because the bigger drain eventually, if you don't do that, is thinking why are they not doing this? Or why are they not, I thought we were collaborating, right? The idea of not knowing because you're so scared of confrontation and having that conversation, I think is worse. It's a bigger drain in the long run because there's so many unknowns. You don't know if you're on the same page. So for babies like me that are getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and having the conversation, right? I think it's just reps. It's just the amount of time you just have the conversation. And the more and more you do it, the easier and easier it gets. Like Jim's a pro at this, so he's been doing this for much longer. I'm just a baby. I'm starting in this realm of events and event planning, at least for what we're doing now.
What we're doing now. I was going to say, Rachel.
Events for radio, but that was easy because it was, money exchange and real contracts. And I was like, fine, let's just do it. Here's the money. But for this, we're collaborating. Right? And it's an energy exchange, it's a totally different story.
And that's the thing too, is like, if you're a speaker, so I'm talking to speakers right now, if you're a speaker and you align with someone having an event and they're newer to it, I always look at it as, if there's alignment, there's value exchange. Because if we're aligned, the people that you're bringing into the event are probably similar to you in some shape, way, or capacity, right? Like, I don't go throw events for what my wife, does chiropractic work for the last 20 years. I'm not going to go throw a functional health medicine event. I couldn't attract those people, right? It's not my brand. It's not me. It's her brand, her. But as a speaker, that person who has a micro event or is new to it, like, I always want to pour it out as much as I can. I was telling someone the other day, like, I make videos for people that cost me money and they don't pay me to speak. And I still do it because they have 12, 25, 30 people in a room. And I used to be that person. I know what it's like. I know what bootstrapping feels like. I've done it in multiple businesses. I've lost everything and then built stuff back. Like, I get it. I also get that you have to align with those people for them to actually show up and pour into folks, right? And you got to be true and honest. Here's the thing: if you're going to tell someone, and this is what I've messed up in the past. If you're going to tell someone there's going to be 100 people in that room and that person's speaking for free and 10 people show up, you just lost credibility of your ethics and who you are as a person. Whether it's out of your control or not, your words matter, especially if you're leveraging certain aspects of an event to get a speaker in the room for free or for a discount or for another different opportunity or agreement. There's a million ways to do this thing. So if you don't have money, this is where I started, with no money, losing a business during COVID, right? So, like, you can make it happen. There just has to be alignment and value exchange. If you got a camera, or someone who has a camera, that's a pretty good value exchange for a speaker. Future content that's free, that doesn't cost $5,000 or $3,000 or shit. 2023, I spent $60,000 on video for my personal brand in 12 months. So if someone can save me some coin on some brand building assets and marketing tools and video and content, that could be a great value exchange. What I was talking about with the events, as far as if you are the event host and you're looking and seeking to collaborate, is really understanding what the pitch is to the speaker. Because if you say 100 people are there and 20, that's going to give you a certain rep. That's people, whether you're hustling and you believe and you just come up short, you got to make that phone call. You have to. You can't have someone coming into a 100-person or a 3,000-person event and there's 10% of people in the room, because it discredits who you are. A gentleman was speaking last year, and he went on a tour for 12 months, and he spoke at a ton of events. Like, I saw him posting, I saw his stage photos, his hero shots, and he made this post that when he goes on stage, he now automatically assumes that 60% of the number that is being told to him will be in the audience. And that's how he manages it based on his experiences. Don't be the event planner or the event host or the business that leverages events for marketing and leads and brand building, that doesn't tell the truth, that isn't honest. Like, you can be fired up, you can have a bunch of willpower, this can be super important to you, but if you're failing and it's a couple weeks out and you damn well know you're not going to hit 500 people when you're at 40, make the call. You have to make the call. And in reality, that's going to give you energy, because one of the biggest things that I've realized is not attacking a problem, ruminating around an idea or a conversation that you know you need to have, and ultimately avoiding hard conversations create more anxiety and more stress because they don't go away. And your mind focuses on negative. And I was just listening to a study around this, so I'll try to break it down. I haven't done a ton of deep research on this, but it's factual based. When you think about future negative thoughts or situations, your body brings you there. It puts you in that state of negativity and you feel it. And then you start thinking about how to mitigate it, and you start ruminating around it, rather than just taking the bold action and doing the thing. You're avoiding it, which is causing more stress, more anxiety, more anger or sadness, all those low level, low vibration emotions. Pick up the phone, make the call, and it's done. It's a 5-10 minute painful phone call, but you just saved yourself 70, 80, 90, 100 thoughts a day for the next 2 or 3 days around this negative conversation, which in turn puts you in a state of negativity where you're vibrating at a low frequency. Like, this is fact-based. I don't have the facts. That's why I started the conversation by saying I'm new to it. But I read the facts. I just can't regurgitate them. They're from legitimate studies. They're from people who have a personal brand and do this for a living. So I do believe it. I fact checked it. I just don't have the facts to share because they're not at the top of my brain.
No, it makes total sense though. It makes total sense.
And that's what we're talking about, these energy losses. Like, if we stop that and have the tough conversation, it's actually an energy gain, because that 5-minute tough conversation results in you don't have to think about this negative energy and this negative energy that's coming into your world, you know?
It fascinates me how, again, fear leads us in so many directions all the time. And it really does become a huge drain. And then you're stuck, like you said, with the thought process, right? You're just thinking the negativity over and over and over again, which brings your frequency level down, which then how are you treating everybody else and everything else in your day leading up to that event or leading up to whatever it is. And again, I think it's just reps. Get used to having the uncomfortable conversation, making the phone call. What's the worst that's going to happen, right? They say, okay, great, I'm not going to be able to do your event anymore, right? Like, that's the worst. Or the best could be like, that's fine. I'd still love to be there and share with whomever's in the room and pour into whomever does show up. And that was the other thing that I was asking you about is, okay, so of the people who do show up, you still have the event, let's say, less people than you anticipated are going to be there. You focus on the people that are there, that are listening, right? You don't focus on the people that aren't there. How do you handle that, like, first event where it's just not as many people as you anticipated?
So how can you provide value knowing that this is going to be way more intimate? And how can you educate yourself and your speakers to have a focus on the individual within the room? So if there's 7 people in the room and I have a 60-minute keynote, I can talk to all 7 people in that 60 minutes, and I can do a pitch and catch, a back and forth, probe a question, get a response, further deeper questions, get a response, find clarity, get a response, find clarity, get a response, ideate, story tell, ask for a situation and scenario, leverage it, advise. Like, look at all the things I just did for that one person. And that can take 5 minutes. 5 times 7 is 35 minutes on a 60-minute keynote. Still gives me 15 minutes for introduction and pre-frame. and then a 5-minute soft landing or an exciting landing, depending on the emotion I want to end on, based on the event planner, based on who's coming up next, based on the MC, right? So there's all these details that go into an event and around it, but I think it's a thing of beauty. Now, here's the thing, and I know people that have done this. I've done this. I know someone actually who did an event. It was digital, virtual. They said there was going to be 40 to 50 people. 5 people showed up and they weren't even on it. The host actually was doing something with their kid. So what all that did right there is pissed off the speaker. So he threw them completely out of whack. Speaker's a great person, personal friend of mine. He realized, caught his emotions, understood frustration and anger, and flipped it and did exactly what I was just saying, pour into those people in an intimate setting. That friend is Sean Kaplan. He's an amazing human. He pours it out for everybody in no matter what situation that is. Shout out to Sean Kaplan. Guy just is a load of information. He'll be in the Impact Effect community. We'll probably do a live here soon. He's a great friend of mine, super intelligent, master of sales, master of communication, team building, all the things. But Sean's a special case because of how great of a human he is and how he understands this game, and he's played it to so many different ways. But he pours out on those 5 people, and all of a sudden one of those 5 people become a client. I've done it, right? I went to a mastermind person's first event, didn't really know how many people were there, didn't really know who was going to be there, knew some business owners. I poured it out, brought on a client. There's 20 people there. I got a lunch meeting next Wednesday with someone I'm excited to have a conversation around. There's a ton of synergy. That's an energy gain for me because I've already validated the alignment level. I've already probed and asked the questions, so I'm not taking a meeting blind. I know who they are, what drives them. I ask deep questions, right? So I'm really into human connection. And I believe that the quality of your answers relate to the quality of your questions. So I ask deep questions. So I get to know people and I get to know where their head's at, what they're seeking. A great question that we talked about this and we're talking about it now is collaboration. How do you define collaboration? Can you give me an example? That's a great question to ask. That's extremely valid, especially if someone wants to collaborate with you, but also if you're just having a good conversation and maybe you want to collaborate with them, right? How many people in my life? I mean, I was talking about it earlier in the week. I think on Wednesday's Rise and Energize, I talked about on Tuesday, I had an amazing coffee meeting that I was like buzzing from. My wife, I came home, she was like, did you have 2 consecutive lattes? Like, you're all over the place. I'm like, I promise, babe, I only had my 1 latte, but I'm just fired up. Like the energy, the conversation, the alignment, the quality of response when I ask really deep questions. Like, oh, I'm elated, I'm charged up, I'm jazzed. So you have all those situations and scenarios. If you're having a micro event, be honest about it. Drop the ego. Say, hey, and this was my first event, right? I said, hey, I want 500 people, 500 people, 500 people. I was so scared to say that we only had 356 signing up, a team of 30, another team of 20 speakers, MCs. Like we had 500, we had 410 people in the room, and I was too scared to tell people it wasn't 500. Like, just be honest. In that case, I was close enough and the room was big enough that no one probably knew or cared, but like, you got to be honest around it, because a speaker going into an expectation that isn't met can throw off their energy. It will throw off their energy, and a good speaker will regain that. A good speaker will center back to heart, understand why they're doing what they're doing, understanding there's an opportunity, understanding that people took time out of their day to show up and trusted this host, which in turn trusted me to produce, even though the situation's fucked up, even though it's not what they said. A good speaker will come back to center, come back to heart, understand their why, and go perform. But if you are asking people to speak for free, they may not have the experience. They may not do this from the heart. They may look at it as an advertising opportunity, a marketing opportunity. So you really got to know who your speakers are, and you got to be honest and upfront so you understand their reaction. Because if someone isn't doing this at a repetitive level or have been in these situations, they may not know how to shift that energy and show up and absolutely fucking crush. They may get thrown off, and that's a direct cause of you as the event planner, of you not being honest and giving different expectations. I mean, I've literally gone to an event and spoke, and the person called me a couple days before and was panicking and freaking out. And I'm like, dude, you got this. I brought like 7 or 8 people with me, fill the whole table. I also shot more marketing videos so they didn't have to focus their time on marketing. They could make calls. Like, if you want this, you need to pick up the phone and spend 14 hours a day calling people to fill this. You have 9 days. And he started doing that. So I said, okay, because I always believe when I advise or I educate or I ideate, what happens in the next 48 hours tells me about your character. Are you going to do it or you're not going to do it? And if you don't, and it's the same way with employees. I was just coaching someone about letting go of an employee. And I said, if you don't, what you see in the next 48 hours dictates the future. You had the conversation, they agreed, you removed all the possibilities, you gave them the resources, you allowed them to enterprise, they have the level of empowerment you wished and wanted, and they're not doing it. So within that 24, 48 hours, if that host is doing the things that I advised to get more people in the room to help, then I will go above and beyond, and I will do the things extra to ensure that the event is at the highest level of where we could get it. Also, I think in those moments, if you're not honest, then people are going to feel your presence and they're going to feel your anxiety. They're going to feel your emotion, whether you put a smile on or not. I had an event this past October where we were supposed to start on time. We had a ton of speakers. I didn't want to go late, and the screen broke. They literally were like, I don't know if you're going to have a LED screen. And I'm like, what the F? Okay. Well, you heard all the stuff I just said, right? I have a ton of reps at this. I've been in micro event or large events that turned micro. I've showed up with completely different expectations. It threw me off so bad, I didn't do my keynote. I didn't do my keynote because I knew I wasn't going to be able to show up at the level that I told the audience all the speakers would. And I did not want to take time out of their day knowing that the last hour was a fucking disaster from my end. I'm not going to get on stage and pretend. It was really hard for me to sink back into my heart because I had to stay in logic to figure out technical issues and hold the glue together. Right. And it wasn't just, oh, the screen's broken. It was, we don't know if the screen's coming back. The timer isn't working for speakers. They're not going to have the slides up on the screen so they know where they're at. Like, we had to fix 5 or 6 things within, we were already behind time. So I know I just rambled there because I get excited about events, but ultimately what I'm saying is whatever you're doing, communicate, set expectations, sign agreements, because all it's doing is understanding and what the expectation is and giving an opportunity to go back to one central thing, and everybody understands it's on the same page. That will give you a lot more energy.
So it's spring. Y'all are going into a lot of events. You're going to start throwing events. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton this weekend. I know there's a ton this weekend. I want you to take to heart what Jim said. Number 1, be honest. Number 2, have the uncomfortable conversation right away, because it's just so much easier on you emotionally and energetically. I love flipping the idea of not a lot of people are coming to, hey, it's going to be a more intimate setting, right? And then focusing on the people who are there, who you can pour into. Don't focus on who's not there. That is an energy drain on 100% all the way. There's something I tell clients all the time about telling your story, because a lot of times people are always just like, who cares about my story? Who's going to listen? You don't know the one person that may take to heart what it is that you're saying and walk away with a completely changed perspective. So if it does become a more intimate setting, pour into those people, because those people will tell other people who will then tell other people, and then they all show up to your next event. It grows. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. But again, like Jim said, Don't be scared to be honest, and don't be scared to have that uncomfortable conversation. Love that. And then figure out what collaboration is, right? What is your perspective on it and what is their perspective on it, and get very clear on the deliverables. I think it's the deliverables that hold a lot of people up because they don't understand. Some people don't understand like the social media marketing world that you and I know in the insides and outs of, right? We know all the assets that we can create for something. And I think a lot of people don't understand what any of those are. So don't be scared to have those tough conversations. We have to start getting uncomfortable. We're comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I know a lot of us don't, like me. I'm a baby at all this stuff, at growing and marketing and having these conversations. Get the reps in, right? Just the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then we'll all be like a gym eventually. We all want to be in that space. We all want to be able to like know where to pivot, right? Like I can't wait to just, those conversations are nothing to me. Just make the call. It's not a big deal. I can't wait to have that energy around it instead of being the overthinker and just thinking about that negativity over and over and over again. Don't do it to yourself. Really, just don't.
I always go back to, and I don't know who told me this or who made it up, but someone told me this when I was like 13 or 14 or something like that. Why are you allowing someone else to rent so much space in your brain? When you pay the mortgage on that space, you own it. If it's broken, you have to fix it. Like you're putting so much into your mindset and your brain. Why are you allowing someone else to rent out that space for free? And what I'm talking about is when you're avoiding those conversations, when you're not being bold or having those, and you know you need to, what you're allowing is that person in that situation to be sitting in the back of your brain renting space, and you're thinking about it subconsciously probably thousands of times and consciously probably hundreds of times before you solve that problem or have that tough conversation. So when you think about it, like, do you support squatters living in other people's houses for free? No. Why would you support a squatter living in your brain for free? You know, and especially if it's a tough conversation where they're not going to pay you, where you're not going to gain a lot of value. You just have to have a hard conversation. I'll leave you with one last hard conversation I had to have as an example. I know we've been talking for 37 minutes. This is usually a Rise and Energize for 15 minutes.
You guys got a double episode.
Here is a situation that I had. I did a conference. I agreed verbally to pay someone to come back as a follow-up event. I lost a ton of money on the conference and I didn't have the money to pay them to come back. I was thinking about it. I didn't sleep that night. I woke up. I said, F it. I'm having this conversation. I get on the phone and I just wanted to be honest and real. So I started the conversation, and I would use this by saying, hey, I have to have a difficult conversation with you right now. It's really uncomfortable. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about it, but it's the right thing to do. I've got advice, and we need to have this conversation. And I said, I can't bring you back. I know I told you that I could. I literally don't have the money. I don't even have the money on a credit card. And you say you love me. You call me brother. One of his things was, I love you at the, right? Like, I love you, brother, which we're not besties. So I'm just going to say it. I've always thought it was bullshit. But he said, okay, I understand. This doesn't have to be a tough conversation. Like, how awesome was that? Now, what happened after that conversation ruined our friendship, ruined our relationship. He tried to manipulate me into paying him and taking risk, and I was playing too small. And then when I flipped it back on that gentleman and said, if I'm playing too small, I think you are too. Why don't you take all the ticket sales for this event, and that's how you pay yourself? Why don't you promote it? You have a bigger network. You know more people. You do a podcast with 2 famous people every single week. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you're not going to take risks, but you're going to coach me, even though I didn't ask for coaching. I paid you to speak on my stage, but you're going to coach me and manipulate me and tell me I'm playing too small and I'm not taking enough risk, but you won't take any risk on this, even though you have the bigger marketing budget and the bigger network. So you could probably hear a little frustration because I felt that I got baited and switched. And that doesn't happen in all those conversations. A lot of people will say, I understand. This doesn't have to be a hard conversation. Like, you don't have the money, or you can't do it, or you thought you could, and you're being bold by calling and just, thanks for telling me now rather than a week before the event, right? Because this was 2 months before. This was 2 months before the event.
Which is fair and a ton of lead up time. And then it puts the ball in their court. How they react if they still decide to come without getting paid, that's on them, right? Amazing, beautiful. Let's support each other. Fabulous.
He didn't come, and he didn't, and we didn't do anything together after that, right? And that's okay. That's totally fine. And that's how he has to manage his time. That's how he has to manage his schedule and his priorities. I totally get that, right? Like, I wasn't mad that it was, no, we're not going to do anything. Like, that didn't frustrate me. I understood that because I get it. Time is money. And if you're a speaker, you're speaking as a marketing obligation to your business and to your revenue line, or you're speaking from heart and impact for transformation and change. And if you can do both of those, you can make a career out of speaking, and it can fulfill your cup, which is what I like to do because it hits both ends of what I need to survive. I need to support my family. I need to get paid, but I also want to make impact, or I feel unfulfilled and feel like I'm meant for more. The last thing I'll leave you with around that speaking situation is, if you are speaking for free and you want to make money, a 5-person event is actually probably really good, because you should pick up one of those clients if they're anywhat in the realm of what you do, or they align with what you need. Because if you're going to pour it out for 5 people, you're going to freaking blow their mind. You're going to have direct personal impact, back and forth conversation, and it's really up to you at that point. Again, if the right people are in the room, a starting out entrepreneur who's broke, has no funding, and is dwindling away their life savings account and has 15 grand left to live off of, isn't going to buy your $5,000 package, right? Like, wrong room, wrong product. If there's an entrepreneur who's in the building, we would call it level 2 stage in the impact effect community. They have 5 grand to spend, and they need to bring in new ideas, new ideation, new strategy to continue to grow. That's a great room. You can probably sell 5 out of 5 if all 5 of those people are like that. So ultimately, show up, show out, pour into people, be honest, stop avoiding hard things, and just do what gives you energy, and reflect on what doesn't, so you can future-proof your wealth and your well-being.
That's amazing. That was it. Yeah, you guys got a double dose of Jim today.
I'm fired up, as always.
It's incredible. I love what we're doing. I hope people take this to heart. And I know a lot of people want to become speakers. A lot of people are throwing events now because they understand community matters and getting out there in front of people. And so I hope this helps you guys. I really, really do. And if you want to join Impact Effect Community, it's very easy. Go to impacteffectcommunity.com. We're going to be talking about all of this and more. We'll give you the blueprint. We'll tell you what to do. But I hope you guys have an amazing Friday and a great weekend of events and all the things.
Go. Let's make some money. Let's bring some revenue in for your business. Let's make some new friends. Let's build some deep human connection. I hope everybody had a great week and they're rolling that positive energy gain into the weekend. I got a friend coming in town. We've been friends since I was like 7. His birthday was yesterday. I'm just fired up. It's going to be a great weekend.
Amazing.
All right, y'all. We'll see you soon. See you Monday.